I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. This topic comes from my 30 plus years of business, sales, and freight moving success. Watch, learn, and apply it. You'll move more freight efficiently, effectively, effortlessly, and make more money financially. And call me at 626-309-9141 with any questions. Now explode your business with...
Hello and welcome to my Tuesday conference call, everybody. Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. Today, I'll show you how to move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly so you make more money financially. And after the call today, go to my website, tedkeysonline.com, to hear more of my podcasts, read more of my blog posts, watch more of my videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to explode your business today. And if you have any questions today, any questions regardless of what it is, or specifically, are you ready for my top producing one-on-one personal freight sales, freight broker training? Then give me a call, Ted Keys. I'm at 626-309-9141. Today's training topic is correct these mistakes approaching freight prospects. Correct these mistakes approaching your freight prospects. For those of you that are on my contact list, go down to any one of those email invites that I send you today, and there will be 7 attachments down at the bottom. We are going to go over each of those attachments one by one, and go ahead and open up that first one right away, and that's where we will start our call today. So again, my title today is Correct These Mistakes Approaching Your Freight Prospects. If there's one thing that you desire to do every single day is to approach your freight prospects the correct way. But unfortunately, if you're a beginner, you're struggling, there's a reason why you're struggling, because you're approaching your freight prospects differently or incorrectly. Well, we're going to talk about today how to correct those mistakes and approach your freight prospects correctly. So anyway, just scroll down to that email invite, open up that first attachment, and let's get going on our topic today, which is correct these mistakes approaching your freight prospects. So let me start out by saying prospecting is a task that most freight sales agents don't look forward to. Now, I say that because most don't, and unfortunately in this profession, most don't look forward to it. And in the end, they end up quitting, they end up giving up because they just don't appreciate it or they don't enjoy doing it. Now, if you're going to be successful, you must get good at approaching your freight prospects. Not only get good at it, but also it must be completed daily. Among other things, freight sales prospecting, it can be frustrating if you allow it to be frustrating, challenging if you allow it to be challenging, and it can test your best nerves again if you allow it to test your best nerves. However, I'll say this, if you're going to get good at this profession, it's something that you're going to enjoy, because as you get better and better at it, you become more and more successful at it. But freight sales agents that have difficulty finding the correct shipping decision makers, they may have a challenging time getting a hold of them, or qualifying them, or getting them to answer their questions, among other things. So despite these recurring challenges, guys, freight sales prospecting techniques and strategies, they just have not changed much over time. They haven't changed over time if you're doing this incorrectly. And again, that's why most people give up, quit, or move on to something else, because they don't do what's required to be corrective in this nature. So many Inexperienced freight sales agents, they still cling to the old spray and pray method of the past, meaning they attempt to gather up all these email addresses and just spray an email out to them, thinking that a lot of these folks are actually going to answer them, and these freight agents haven't even made a contact with any of these prospects yet. But I will say this, that way is so ineffective, I will say that. And if something is no longer effective, why aren't the proper adjustments being made? That's the question that I'm asking right now. So here are 5 ways where freight sales agents go wrong when approaching their freight prospects. Now, my question to you, whoever's on the phone, whoever's listening, watching my video, my question to you is this: are you making any of these mistakes and hurting yourself in the process? That is my question to you. Are you doing any of these? Well, if you are, you're definitely hurting yourself in the process. So let's go over these 5 mistakes one by one. So the first mistake number 1 is targeting your freight prospects based on their title. Targeting your freight prospects based on their title. Basically, if you are pursuing somebody and their title doesn't say freight or decision or maker or manager in it, you're pursuing somebody with the wrong title. If they've got the wrong title, they're not in the right position to even make a decision for you. But freight sales agents who base their search on who a prospect is versus what they do, they fall into the trap because the prospect doesn't see the immediate value of the freight agent's service. Just because your wrong prospect is a CEO, the owner of the company, doesn't mean that they can make a decision about shipping and freight or even care as well. Instead of hunting for specific titles, here's your solution here. Instead of hunting for that specific title, hunt for interest. Basically, who would have an interest in your company, all right? Who would have an interest in your company and would seek you or your company's website. Seek you for a solution or your company's website. Freight sales agents who actually focus on providing information to the correct shipping decision maker seeking it, well, they're going to enjoy better connections and they're going to build stronger relationships. So the first mistake that freight sales agents do when approaching their prospects is they target their freight prospect based on their title, Mistake number two that freight sales agents make approaching their prospects is they skip that required initial research. They skip that oh so important initial research. Without researching a freight prospect, initially, freight sales agents are left to guess about those pain points and those challenges that they face. As a result, freight agents won't present their awesome freight service in the right areas to show how valuable it can be to that specific prospect. After all, freight sales agents won't solve a shipping challenge if they're not sure what it is to begin with. So here's a simple rule of thumb when it comes to doing that required initial research. Spend more time researching a freight prospect than you do emailing them. Again, spend more time researching a freight prospect than you do emailing them. And my point is email them as little as possible. You email them to get their freight list, okay? But if you really want to connect faster and better, a phone call always beats an email. That is my rule of thumb that goes with this rule of thumb. Then, when you have significant knowledge of that company at your fingertips, you can build that credibility and rapport with that prospect while connecting your freight services benefits with their freight prospect's specific pain points and your challenges. So spend more time researching than you do emailing. Remember, Your goal is to make one solid, strong touch per week. A phone call always trumps an email. So spend more time researching than you do emailing. That's number two. Number two is skipping that required initial research. That's mistake number two that freight prospects make. Mistake number three that freight prospects make when approaching their mistake number three is the mistake that freight agents make when they're approaching their freight prospects is they make their calls totally cold. Making your calls totally cold. And again, this goes hand in hand with what I just went over on obtaining that required research. Making your calls totally cold is mistake number three that freight agents make. Today's freight prospects screen their calls, if you haven't noticed, if you're not doing this already, and they protect their inboxes if you haven't noticed that already. That's why a phone is always the best piece of equipment to use when you're connecting with the marketplace. Freight sales agents who attempt to start and build a relationship using those cold tactics often hit roadblocks because their prospect just isn't interested in talking to a freight agent that they don't know. And when you just start emailing somebody that you haven't spoken to, trust me, that prospect is going to blow you off because they just don't know you. And they certainly haven't expressed any interest in utilizing your service to begin with. So cold calling and cold emailing techniques are losing their effectiveness because today's freight prospect has changed. They just don't go for that stuff anymore. Hey, we all email, okay? Think of all the emails that you get throughout the day that you delete. So instead, locate your prospects online first. Locate them online first, all right? Connect with them over shared interests on the phone to warm your relationship with them. Then and only then will they reach out to you for your freight solutions. Then and only then will they reach out to you for your freight solutions. So the third mistake that freight agents make approaching freight prospects is they make those cold calls totally cold. They don't do any research and they just assume that an email is going to do the job when it just won't. Mistake number four that freight agents make while approaching their freight prospects is they stick to that stale, cold sales script. They stick to that sales script, okay? Irregardless of who they're talking to. Now, I will say this, I do provide a sales script on my sales call information sheet, which is contained in my Freight Sales Success Guide. Again, it is only a script. And when I go over that with you during your training with me, when you first become an agent with me, I say to you, these are the important questions to ask, but don't ask them verbatim. Ask them based on how your prospect is taking you, how your freight prospect is accepting you, okay? But the mistake that most folks make is they stick to that same old sales script. Now, every freight prospect, they have unique challenges and they require those specific solutions. By freight agents sticking to a generic script, freight sales agents, they fail to present their awesome freight service as a solution to their prospect's specific needs. While it's great for a freight prospect to hear about your freight services benefits, they must know how your features specifically assist them. So, what are you going to do? Hang tight. You're going to toss your script out the window and you're going to personalize each message based on the information you've gathered from the interactions that you've had with your prospect. How do you do that if it's your first call? You've got to judge it based on how they're accepting you, okay? You've got to judge it based on that. If somebody's being real talkative because you've done your research, because you didn't go in there cold, okay? Because you're actually talking to the shipping decision maker, you're already on your way. Go ahead and ask those series of questions again, but don't let them think that you're reading a sales script. So by personalizing each message, a freight sales agent, they're going to highlight the key benefits that directly solve their freight prospects' challenges in a way that other services won't be able to. Mistake number 4 is freight sales agents, they stick to that same old stale sales script. Mistake number 5 that freight agents make when they approach their freight prospects is they follow up without any specific purpose. They follow up without any specific purpose. By following up without providing any new value, freight sales agents aren't assisting the freight prospects and are basically annoying them instead. When you train with our office, one thing I tell you every week when you get on the phone with your prospects, calling them, not emailing them, but calling them on the top of your list, the main question for you to ask them is, again, if you don't know them that well, but you've spoken to them before, is what challenging freight are you moving this week? What challenging freight are you moving this week? So you're already getting ahead of the game. Why? Because when they give you the opportunity to move their freight, it's going to be challenging to begin with. As I've said over and over again, the reason why we eventually get into a prospect and move their freight is because they've given us a challenging lane, a challenging, troublesome lane that everybody else is unable to move, but they've given you the opportunity. So there's your question. Again, don't go in there saying, hey, how you doing? You know, what can I do for you this week? Throw this at them. What challenging freight are you moving this week? Your freight prospect is hungry, okay? They're hungry to hear lines like that, and they're hungry for new and better information, but typically they're moving at their own pace. That's why they give you the opportunity when they have the opportunity for you. So freight sales agents who send worthless emails regularly aren't providing value and are likely hurting their credibility in the process. So by staying in contact with and actually providing real value, okay, to your freight prospects through a multitude of channels, which I give you in my Freight Sales Success Guide, freight agents don't have to follow up just for the sake of following up because their conversation is always ongoing. So mistake number 5 is when freight agents follow up with no purpose in mind, just for the sake of, hey, how you doing? You know, what, you know, can I assist you? Can I help you this week? Okay? Instead of, you know, really asking them a great question, such as I said, what challenging freight are you moving this week? So let's wrap this up. Let's take all this and concise it all in one package. Prospecting, connecting and building relationships with freight prospects. It can be challenging, no doubt, like I've talked about earlier, but I will say this, as you get better and better at it, it becomes less challenging, not only less challenging, but it becomes enjoyable because you have the experience, you've gained the experience, you've made these 5 mistakes and so many other mistakes. Remember, these are the 5 biggest mistakes we make. You've learned how to overcome those mistakes. Again, you've made them already. But just like anything else in life, when it starts to become too challenging and you're not seeing the results you desire, you've got to make those adjustments. When you're seeing that you're making mistakes, you make adjustments. I mean, it's just that simple. So instead of sticking with your old school tactics that I've talked about earlier, like blanket emailing and those I've discussed earlier, utilize the new strategies and techniques that I'm continually revealing, just like I am today in this podcast. But go to my website, tedkeysonline.com, and you're gonna, read my, listen to my podcasts, read my blog posts, and watch those videos, all free of charge, by the way. So, mistakes that freight agents make approaching their freight prospects is mistake number 1 is they target the freight prospects based on their title. Mistake number 2, they skip that required initial research. Mistake number 3 is they make their cold calls totally cold. Let's face it, you've got to make cold calls in this profession. But the warmer you go in there, knowing who you're talking to, knowing what the freight they move, what lanes they move, they become warm, okay? But the third mistake is they make those calls totally cold. Fourth mistake is sticking to that dry, dreary, stale script, okay? Mistake number 5 is following up with no specific purpose in mind. 5 mistakes that you are to correct if you're making them as you approach your freight prospects. Awesome. Again, those are the attachments that we went over this week. Correct these mistakes. Correct these mistakes. I went over 5 of them. Correct these mistakes when you approach your freight prospect. In wrapping up my call today, a very good call today, a great topic, okay? Do you want to receive your personal weekly email invite to this and every call? Then go to my website, tedkeysonline.com. On any one of my website pages off to the right, enter your contact details. By doing that, you'll receive your weekly email invite to this and every call, along with the free attachments. Again, the free attachments that I go over on every call. My next question, my most important question is, do you have any questions about what I just went over today? And the most important question that I can ask is, are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? There's a reason why you got on this call today. The reason is you find value, or you found value in what I had to provide to you free of charge today. So, are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Yes? Then give me a call, Ted Keys. I'm at 626-309-9141. Great call today. I'll see you all again next week on my Tuesday conference call, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time. Take care. God bless you all. I'll see you all again next week on my Tuesday conference call. Bye-bye. When you arrive at my Freight Sales Success Store today, you'll see a host of products available there for purchase. First one you'll see available is my flagship product. That is my Freight Sales Success Guide, typically for beginner and struggling freight agents. If you're searching for that daily motivation to set goals, to achieve them, to pick up the phone daily and connect and build relationships with the marketplace, then opt for my Freight Sales Success Quotes. And if you're searching for those specific skills, and there are many skills, many individual skills required to be successful in this profession, then opt for my Freight Sales Success Skill. I highly recommend each one of these products, available for purchase today in my Freight Sales Success Store. Do you have any questions again? Do you have any questions about today's call? Or more importantly, are you ready for my top producing one-on-one personal freight sales, freight broker training? Then give me, Ted Keys, a call. I'm at 626-309-9141. Great topic for today. Take these skills, apply them. You'll be amazed at what happens to your results.